Well, chapter 5, developing a training foundation. So, throughout this book, chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 cover a lot of physiology. And now this chapter is starting to pull that physiology together to help people design a endurance program. This book is written for the endurance runner. So, this is really built around a marathon or half marathon. I'm going to extend some of the discussion to other endurance sports like an Ironman, Iron distance type of event or half Ironman, what have you. But keep in mind that the material in the book keeps referring back to running. So I'll try to bridge that gap where it occurs. All right, so the big thing is you want to establish a training foundation. And in this chapter, Note goes through lots of rules and laws to follow to try to get to the start line of an event injury free and in the best shape possible. What he's not going to go through, and what I will not go through, are the details of a training program. Training programs are available. You can find them. You sometimes can find them off of the race website, or maybe you work with a coach, or maybe you develop your own training program based upon the knowledge that you've gained in this class and other classes and other readings that you're doing. But they can be detailed and they can be 12 weeks long. They can be 24 weeks long. They can be a year long. But the training program lays out the workouts that someone would need to do in order to get to the start line in as best shape possible with the least amount of injury or really no injury, because that's going to give you your best chance of being successful in the event. Now, as I mentioned, there's all different types of training programs, and you really need to sift through if you're going to pick one for yourself, which one's going to work based upon your schedule, based upon your time availability, based upon your goals. And we're going to go through that. As I mentioned, this chapter is geared towards the runner, and even more so, probably geared towards the novice runner versus a high level elite athlete who's maybe trying to get under 30 minutes in a 10K. That's a entirely different type of athlete than someone who's trying to run a 10K in under an hour or maybe under 50 minutes. And those types of factors, the performance goal, really need to be figured into a training program. I'm going to go through big picture type of approach with the training program and really tie back in some of the physiology that we've covered. And there is good information in this chapter to review for any level, but uh, to get into an elite athlete or high level athlete, probably need to dial down into some more details of the training program. Okay, this chapter has lots of anecdotal information, and I'll even give you some more anecdotes as we go along. And remember, the anecdotes are based upon personal observation. The empirical is derived from an experiment. It's really interesting trying to find the research to support training programs. That's tough research to do because you need people to participate in a study over a long period of time. And they need to be willing to follow the training program that you've identified in your experimental design. That's a big ask. It's not easy, especially if you're trying to deal with high level athletes. Is they don't want to take the risk of either getting injured or not having peak fitness when they're ready for their competition. So a lot of the training research is actually built around classes and built around physical education classes, especially at the college level. And that's often why a training program may be a 10-week program or a 12-week program or maybe a 15-week program. That's the length of a semester. Remember, some universities go trimesters and they use 10-week long semesters, whereas trimesters, but here at UNLV, we do 2 semesters a year, and those are 15 weeks long. If I'm teaching a running class, for example, I may be able to convince my class that I need them to follow a particular training program and then do a pre-test and a post-test or a test in the beginning of the semester and a test at the end of the semester. So what that means is our training programs are often built around that type of length of time simply because that's the length of an academic semester. It's a lot easier to get a group of people to start a training program at the same time if you're all registered for the same class and you're going to attend the class a certain number of days a week or what have you. It also means there's a big limitation with research out there dealing with training programs from an empirical perspective and training programs for all different levels of athlete, different ages of athletes, and different athletes of different conditions, health conditions even. So this is a limitation of the work, and we need to keep that in mind. And a lot of our work on understanding factors that will improve performance are really built not on training programs, but on interventions that happen in a day or comparison of two conditions to see which one might lead to an improved performance or improved training response. All right, so keep that in mind as we go through this. And it does really highlight the importance of paying attention to your training program or whoever you're working with and training to make sure that that person is getting the best training stimulus to help them achieve their goals while also minimizing the risk of injury. It is good to examine the physiology behind the different steps and laws that this chapter goes through, and we'll talk about that. And the importance of this chapter is related to these points. Running is a good exercise to improve fitness, and runners get injured. And so this is really the balance that you're trying to strike between a training program is improve fitness and minimize the risk of injury. All right, so let's start going through some of the steps. Step one, you got to analyze motivation and discipline. You got to know why someone is interested in taking on an endurance event. Is it weight loss? Is it fitness? Is it a 5K time you're trying to PR? Um, we'll talk about goals later on, but the goals ultimately need to be in line with the motivation. In many cases, people who start a run training program are changing their lifestyles, and that is very important. There's a lot of neat programs, couch to 5K or couch to marathon, where you're taking someone who has a relatively sedentary lifestyle and trying to train them to complete some endurance event. I've got a picture of some Biggest Loser contestants here. One of the things about that show when it was out was the lifestyle changes that folks go through, and it is important to create training programs ultimately that can fit in a lifestyle and be sustainable. One of the downsides of this type of show is that they often focused on just the period of time that they're losing the weight, as opposed to training people to change their lifestyles and then sustain that weight loss for the rest of their lives. So analyze motivation and discipline. Second part of this, establish a plan to reinforce positive changes in behavior. And there's some different ways to do that. Shaping. The new target behavior is broken down to small steps that lead to achieving a goal. Allocate a specific time for running. Run with a group or have someone else to be accountable to. Make running a habit. This is something I talk with people all the time, is just pick a time of day that works based upon that day and your schedule, that works to regularly include exercise or include running in this case. Reinforcement control, encourage and reinforce the new behavior, social interaction, new equipment, clothes. So you want to reinforce that new behavior that you're trying to take on. And maybe it's the new gear, or maybe it's meeting new people or having different engagements with people. Stimulus control, do things to encourage the desire to run. Something that can be helpful is to make sure you put your clothes, your gear, your nutrition out for the next day running so that when you wake up, it's there and you're ready to go and you're not putting a lot of thought into uh, what to wear to run on that particular day. Stimulus control is also involved reading running magazines or going to certain websites to keep up on current content on endurance training. Associative and disassociative strategies for motivation and discipline. You want to focus on running or something else while running. You got to figure out what works. So this is a neat area of research where, as a runner, if you're just training, do you listen to music? Do you not listen to music? Do you pay attention to your running style? Do you not pay attention to your running style? And it can help to do a little bit of all these things during a week. Other One more aspect to establishing the plan to reinforce behavior is you want to have coping thoughts. You want to learn positive self-talk methods. You want to be saying things like, I am a runner. I enjoy running. I enjoy biking. I enjoy swimming. You've got to enjoy it. And the more that you enjoy it, the more that you're likely going to sustain and continue the exercise plan. I know it sounds silly, but it is important that if you get up every day and you say, oh, I can't stand this, I don't want to do it, eventually you will stop doing it. But if you get up and you just convince yourself, or even just say sometimes, I enjoy running, and then you go out for a run, eventually your brain may actually say, you enjoy running. And so it does actually help. All right, step 2, decide if you need medical clearance. So there's always this warning with starting exercise programs to see your doctor before starting any exercise program. Well, really, what you want to do is go see your doctor if you do not start an exercise program. It is so important to have regular physical activity in your lifestyle. That's how you maintain health. It's so important. And so if you decide that you are going to be sedentary, you better go see your doctor, because your health will quickly degrade over time if you end up being that true couch potato. So there are recommendations and there are medical clearances. And if you work in a fitness industry, or work in a fitness park, or shop, whatever, you may need to do some clearance for folks. And you may need, most folks will probably be okay to start an exercise program. Some folks may need to go see their doctor uh, from a business side to make sure that you're not going to be liable. The ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine, is a good professional organization to help provide some of those guidances, and they actually have some good worksheets to follow to be able to make sure someone is ready to start exercise, or if they need to go see their doctor. And some of the questions uh, are related to the age, the gender of someone, whether or not they've had signs and symptoms of heart problems, or even if they have a history of heart problems in their family. And that might ultimately lead them to have to go see a doctor before starting really strenuous physical activity. Chest pains, dizziness, fainting, hypertension, family history, go see a doc. It's good just to have that checkup. The physical activity readiness questionnaire is a good shortcut to identifying any reasons not to start exercise. This is a good, simple questionnaire to fill out for anyone who is ready to start exercising. Has your doctor told you that you have heart problem? Have you had heart problems, dizziness, and so forth? This is an easy yes, no. If you get yes to one or more questions, probably need to go see a doctor. If you got no, you're probably okay to start, a graduated exercise program. Step 3, choose the appropriate running shoes. Okay, so yeah, this chapter in this book is focused on running. So you really want to have the right equipment. If it's biking, have a good bike. Know that the bike fits you, that it's the right size for you. If you're swimming, make sure you have goggles that fit and they don't leak. You have the right type of gear if you're going to go swim in open water in terms of a wetsuit or what have you. In the case of running, you want to choose a pair of running shoes that's going to be appropriate for the type of running that you're doing. This is covered a bit more in the biomechanics of endurance performance class, and we do go through shoes in a little bit more detail. The big thing is with especially a novice runner, I talk with them that they do not need to they do not need to buy the most expensive pair of running shoes, which could be well over $200. You can find an inexpensive pair. It still may be a little expensive to some people, maybe even $100. Um, and you want to have a pair of shoes, and this sounds uh, sort of not great advice, but they need to be comfortable. And if you put them on and you've experienced any pains, or you experience any hot spots in your foot, that's not the right pair of shoes, no matter what it looks like or even what the price is. It has to be comfortable, and it cannot be causing any sharp pains anywhere or any pushing on certain areas that you have a sensation. And there's different parts of the shoe. And again, we go through this a little bit more detail in biomechanics of endurance performance. The thing to remind people is they probably need to change their shoes out frequently. I actually encourage people to buy two models of shoes, maybe two of the same shoe if you need to, but it is good to rotate your shoes, and sometimes it's good to run in different models in order to introduce your brain to different styles of running and how a shoe may change the way that you run. And here you see I've got a picture of even running in bare feet. I do advocate for people to be in bare feet. Running in bare feet is not necessary in terms of improving performance, but being in bare feet throughout the day as much as possible is probably a good thing, especially if you're walking around outside. Good thing to be in bare feet. But running, I'd put shoes on. Step four, choose appropriate clothing. Uh, Keep it simple. Again, your clothing that you're going to use for running is going to be different than for biking and obviously different than for swimming. Now, in a triathlon, in a race, you do wear typically the same clothes throughout the entire race. There are people who do change clothes, however, and it depends on the length of the race and it depends on the person's goal. If they're trying to compete in an event, especially a short event, they are not changing their clothes. If they're trying to complete an event, even a short one, a person may benefit from changing their shirt out or changing their shorts out. Okay, of course, it depends on if they have a place to change. Not all races do have an area for people to change clothes. The longer the race, the more likely they'll have something to change into. But you gotta pick the right clothing. You want to be as light as possible. You don't want to carry extra weight. You want to be comfortable. You want to have the right shorts, the right shirt, the right sports bra, something that's comfortable for you to run without having a distraction of having the wrong clothing. Have the right, the amount of clothing that you have is dependent on the weather as well. And having the right clothing for the weather is important. Okay, so those are 4 steps. I'm going to stop here, and then I'll pick up in the next video on starting at step 5. So analyze motivation and discipline of yourself or of someone you're working with. Decide if you need medical clearance. Decide if you need medical clearance if you're not going to exercise. Choose appropriate running shoes or choose the appropriate equipment for the sport that you're doing. Choose appropriate clothing as well, weather, race-wise, strategy-wise, what have you. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Thank you.